Hi everyone, my name is Sister Cherry for persons who do not know who I am and may be coming in contact with my YouTube channel for the first time. We study prophecy and character building. Today we're going to look at the sanctuary in part because we're not doing the entire sanctuary. The sanctuary message is quite large. If you know the sanctuary, you know the plan of salvation. The Lord tell us what my way, oh God, is in the sanctuary. So we're going to look at the sanctuary in part. I believe you're going to learn something new today. Don't ever say, I've been through the sanctuary over and over and this is the first time. And this is not the first time I'm doing it and I'm not going to learn anything. I guarantee you, if you allow the Holy Spirit to take control and to be with you at this time, that you are going to learn something. This is our prayer talk. This is what we're going to read before we go into our prayer. And it's taken from the book Evangelism. As a people, we should be earnest students of prophecy. We should not rest until we become intelligent in regard to the subject of the sanctuary, which is brought out in the vision of Daniel and John. This subject sheds great light on our present position and work and gives us unmistakable proof that God has led us in our past experience. As a people, this is Seventh-day Adventists that the Spirit of Prophecy writings is talking about. We should be earnest students of prophecy. So when it comes to prophecy, we are to be sincere in our hearts. And we should not rest until we become intelligent in regard to the subject of the sanctuary. Okay, let's go into a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we are so thankful that you love us so much, that you have made our path plain and straight, and we need not err. But Father, when humanity takes hold of divinity, we are able to do the work that you would have us to do. As we're about to go through the study on the sanctuary, we ask for your divine presence, that you open up our hearts and our mind, that we may learn something new today. Be with the viewers today. In Jesus' name, amen. So we are students, prophetic students, right? Students of prophecy. This is an image of Israel in the time of Moses when they were in the wilderness. And this is how the tent was pitched. Taking it from a far angle, and the tent outside are where Israel abode. You know, wherever the cloud stopped and the pillar of fire stopped, there the children of Israel abode. There they will pitch the tent. There the sanctuary will be. So this is a far view. This view is showing us how things look in the day when persons will come and bring the lamb or the sacrifices to the priest, and he would offer it up on a daily basis on behalf of them. In the court, I'm reading from Patriarchs and Prophets, and nearest the entrance stood the brazen altar. of burnt offering upon this altar was consumed all the sacrifices made by fire unto the Lord, and its horns were sprinkled with the atoning blood. Between the altar and the door of the tabernacle was the laver, which was also of brass, made from the mirrors that had been the freewill offering of the women of Israel. At the laver the priests were to wash their hands and their feet wherever they went into the sacred apartment or approached the altar to offer a burnt offering unto the Lord. So on the left we have the brazen altar of burnt offering, where all sacrifices are made by fire. And then on the right we have the laver, where the priest would wash his hand and his feet before he go into the first apartment to do any duty. Besides the outer court, which contains the altar of burnt offering, because what we're seeing here is an image of what actually goes on in the sanctuary, all the furnitures from the outer court right into the inner part of the sanctuary, removing all the veil and so forth. This is what you see. This is how it is set up. The tabernacle itself consists of two apartments called the Holy and the Most Holy, separated by a rich and beautiful curtain or veil. A similar veil closed the entrance to the first apartment. So we have a veil at the first apartment, and then we have a veil to go into the inner apartment. In the holy place was the candlestick on the south, and its 7 lamps giving light to the sanctuary both by day and by night. On the north stood the table of shewbread, and before the veil separating the holy from the most holy was the golden altar of incense, from which the cloud of fragrance with the prayers of Israel was daily ascending before God. So we talked about the altar of burnt offering and the laver already, and we see the table of showbread, and to the south we see the candlestick, and just at the entrance before you go into the most holy place was the altar of incense. And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of shittim wood shalt thou make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, 4 square. And it shall be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be of the same. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. The top thereof and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof, and thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round and about. And this we are seeing here is the altar of incense, where they will burn the frankincense and so on to give the aroma, and we're seeing the significance of what it actually does, how it was built. This is actually describing everything about the altar of incense. Now what we're seeing here now is the showbread. It was kept ever before the Lord as a perpetual offering. Thus it was part of the daily sacrifice. It was called showbread, or bread of the presence, because it was ever before the face of the Lord. It was an acknowledgement of man's dependence upon God for both temporal and spiritual food. So we are seeing here the significance of the showbread, and that it is received only through the meditation of Christ. God had led Israel in the wilderness with bread from heaven, and they were still dependent upon his bounty, both for temporal food and spiritual blessings. Both the manna and the showbread pointed to Christ, the living bread, who is ever in the presence of God for us. He himself said, I am the living bread which came down from heaven. John 6:48-51. Frankincense was placed upon the loaves when the bread was removed every Sabbath, to be replaced by fresh loaves. The frankincense were burnt upon the altar as a memorial before God. And he made the candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work made he the candlestick. His shaft and his branch, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers were of the same, and 6 branches going out of the sides thereof, 3 branches of the candlesticks out of one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side thereof. And he made his and his snuffers and his snuff dish of pure gold. We know the candlestick was located to the south. This is taken in Exodus 37, verses 17, 18, and 23. Next we're reading from Exodus 26:33. The veil just before the entrance of the most holy place. And thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of shittim wood, overlaid with gold. The hook shall be of gold upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang upon the veil under the tackles, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the holy and the most holy. So the holy and the most holy was divided by a veil of scarlet, purple, and blue. We are reading continuing in Exodus. And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof, which was showed to thee in the mount. And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen of cunning work, which cherubim shall it be made. So everything about the sanctuary was laid out. How the sanctuary was made was based on the pattern of the true sanctuary in heaven. So whatever the Lord gave to Moses, that is exactly what he did. Everything was outlined as it are to be. And they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. Within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shalt make upon it a crown of gold round about. So this is the ark of the covenant. This is what we're seeing here, just an image for us to have an idea of what the ark of the covenant looked like. From 30 years old and upward, even unto 50 years old, everyone that entereth into the service for the work in the tabernacle of the congregation, from 30 years old and upward, even unto 50 years. Everyone that came in to do the work of the service of the ministry and the service of the burden in the tabernacle of the congregation, according to the commandment of the Lord, they were numbered by the hand of Moses, everyone according to his service and according to his burden. Thus were they numbered of him as the Lord commanded Moses. So here the Lord is laying out the priest, the ministry of the priest. The Lord said that you had to be 30 years old and upward unto 50 years old. So from 30 to 50, you were supposed to do the priest work. You will enter the service at 30, and you will cease when you're 50 years. We are continuing in Numbers chapter 8. And I have taken the Levites for all the firstborn of the children of Israel, and I have given them the Levites as a gift to Aaron and to his sons from among the children of Israel. So we know persons who came into the service of the priests were to be from the tribe of Levi. Let's keep in mind that, because on another study we're going to talk about Christ's work as a priest and the Levite, because we know that the priest came from the line of the Levite and Christ was from the line of Judah. So we're going to talk a bit about that next time. And to make an atonement for the children of Israel. And Moses and Aaron and all the congregation of the children of Israel did to the Levites according unto all the Lord commanded Moses concerning the Levites. So did the children of Israel unto them, and the Lord spake unto Moses. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to get myself some water. Okay. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, This is it that belongeth unto the Levites, from 20 and 5 years old, and upward they shall go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. And from the age of 50 they shall cease waiting upon the service thereof, and shall serve no more. So there was a 5-year waiting. 20 and 5, we know is 25. They're entering into the service at 30. So it said 25, 20 and 5-year-old upward, they shall go into it. So the training that they were supposed to get to equip them to go into the sanctuary so that they won't make any mistake was a 5-year training. And from the age of 50, they were supposed to cease. They were not to cease and not do anything. No, they will not serve anymore, but shall minister with their brethren in the tabernacle of the congregation, to keep charge, and shall do no service. Thou shalt thou do unto the Levites touching the charge. So the Lord know that between the ages of 30 and 50, you're equipped at that time. You would be excuse me, married by then and settle down and have a bit more experience. So I guess that is why he used that age, not too old and at the same time not too young. We're going to talk a bit about Jesus, Ananias, and Caiaphas. We know that Annas was Caiaphas' father-in-law, but he was a priest as well, and Caiaphas was the high priest. We see the work of the priests and what they are to do. It's a very tasking work, but you had to be faithful. In the days of Christ, I'm talking about this because persons would ask, why is it that persons like Ananias and Caiaphas and those priests who were in the day of Jesus going into the most holy place, because the high priest would go in there once a year on the day of atonement and offered up the sacrifice for the people. That was the day of the blotting out of sins, where you would have the he-goat, and where the sins was transferred from the high priest to the he-goat, and they would send the he-goat away. We know, we are familiar with how it's go. On the day of atonement, everything had to be right. You would have no sin among you, because if you do, even the high priest, when you go into the most holy place, you will not be coming back out alive. And they would have to pull you out. And we are very familiar with what happened back then. The two apartments became one, the holy and the most holy place became one, making it all holy because the curtains were drawn back and it was one and the presence of God was there at the time. So nobody was allowed to go in there on the Day of Atonement, not a priest except the high priest. So they would tie a string to him and he would have bell on it, and you're not familiar with it, and they would shake it to see if he's taking too long to come out. Well, once he start walking around, they will know, okay, he's still alive. But if they're not hearing the bell, they will suspect. So the string will have pulled them up because they couldn't go into the today. But what I'm saying is that Caiaphas was a very evil man. You might say why? He had Christ crucified, the Son of God, the one who came to bring deliverance to the Israel. How can he go into the most holy place every year and not die? We're going to take a look at that. We're reading from John 18:12. It says, Then the band and the captain and officers of the Jews took Jesus and bound him and led him away to Annas first, for he was father-in-law to Caiaphas, which was the high priest that same year of when Jesus was crucified. Now Caiaphas was he which gave counsel to the Jews, that it was expedient that one man should die for the people. We're familiar with that. Jesus answered him in verse 23 and said, If I have spoken evil, bear witness of this evil. But if well, why smitest thou me? This is the question Christ is asking. What have I done for you to smite me? What evil have I done? What evil have I spoken? What witness do you have to say that? Now Annas had sent him bound unto Caiaphas, the high priest, because they were already plotting to get rid of Christ. When we read up, they say it is, okay, let me have it, expedient that one man should die for the people. They had plans to kill Christ. Patriarchs and prophets tells us that the ark remained at Shiloh for 300 years until because of the sins of Eli's house. We are familiar that Eli was a high priest and Eli did do evil too. Having your children and rebuking them from wrong with such a position as high priest. A high priest represented Christ in type, just as Christ is doing our priestly ministry now. So if you as the high priest, Eli, as priest, not taking charge of your own house and allowing them to commit all manner of evil, you're just as guilty. So in that day, the ark of the covenant was taken by the hands of the Philistines, and Shiloh was ruined. The ark was never returned to the tabernacle. Hey, the sanctuary service was finally transferred to the temple of at Jerusalem, and Shiloh fell into insignificance. There are only ruins to mark the spot where it once stood. Long afterwards, its fate was made use of as a warning to Jerusalem. Go ye now unto my place which was in Shiloh, the Lord declared by the prophet Jeremiah, where I set my name at first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Israel. Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, the represented Christ, wherein you trust, and unto the place where I give to you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. We are familiar that in the days of Jeremiah, the Lord informed him that the Babylonians were going to come and destroy the temple and take away everything. But before that happened, God told a few of his faithful men was to take the Ark of the Covenant and to hide it in a cave never to be disturbed again. So, in the days of Christ, when the high priest went into the most holy place once per year, he didn't die. Why? The Ark of the Covenant was not among the people in Jerusalem. They were deceiving the people that on the Day of Atonement, everything was going as it used to in the days of Moses, where they would go in once per year and there would be the Ark of the Covenant or and overshadowing the mercy seat, cherubs, the two cherubims. But in the days of Christ, the Ark of the Covenant was not there. So that is why Caiaphas and the priests before him, who went into the most holy place, didn't die. But the people never knew that. The people thought the Ark of the Covenant was there. So when the high priest Caiaphas went into the most holy place, he was going into an empty room. And we know the Ark of the Covenant, and with the mercy seat and the cherubims overshadowing the mercy seat, showed us that God's presence was there. But when Christ came to his people, the presence of God was not there. They had an empty room in the most holy place, but they went in to the most holy place every year and do what? That's why they didn't die. They didn't die. In case you were wondering how it is that they went in there and they didn't die and they were so evil, it's not that they were asking for forgiveness, because these men were run by Rome. Whoever Rome wanted to be high priest was high priest. And if a high priest was there and Rome didn't want them to be high priests, he was not high priest. And if who wanted to be high priest and somebody else is high priest and they don't want them there, they kill them. They murder them. You might be saying, Sister Cherry, stop your blasphemy. What you talking about? You're speculating. But we are going to see. We are going to read a few quotations. Before the temple was destroyed, God made known to a few of his faithful servants the fate of the temple, which was the pride of Israel. You always hear the talk about Solomon's temple. Even when Christ said, I will tear it down and in 3 days it will build it up, even though they didn't understand. This temple was the pride of Israel, and which they regard with idolatry while they were sinning against God. He also revealed to them the captivity of Israel. These righteous men, just before the destruction of the temple, removed the sacred ark containing the tables of stone, and with mourning and sadness secreted it in a cave where it was to be hid from the people of Israel because of their sins, and was to be no more restored to them. That sacred ark is yet hid. It has never been disturbed since it was secreted. And we are talking about in the days of Jeremiah. Jeremiah told them about the Israelites going down into Babylon as captives. They were there for 70 years, and even after they came back up. No. So in the days of Christ, in the days of Christ, when Christ were there, the Ark of the Covenant was never there. By a few of God's faithful servants, he told them and they hid it. That secret died with them. Why would God hid it? You may ask. Why? Because God have use for the Ark of the Covenant in the last days. At the time of the birth of Christ, the nation was chafing under the rule of her foreign masters, which was Rome, and racked with internal strife. The Jews had been permitted to maintain the form of a separate government, but nothing could disguise the fact that they were under the Roman yoke, or reconcile them to the restriction of their power. The Romans claimed the right of appointing and removing the high priest. How can an outsider come to God's people and tell them who should be high priest and who shouldn't be? Rome had the power to do that because God was not with the people. When Christ came in the fullness of time, God sent forth his Son, born from a virgin. Christ came right on the scene to save his people. Not one Christian was caught in the destruction of Jerusalem. So the Roman claimed the right of appointing and removing the high priest, and the office was often secured by fraud, bribery, and even murder. Thus the priesthood became more and more corrupt. In the days of Christ, the priesthood was corrupt, and the most holy place was empty. And God exposed these people, because when Christ died, the true lamb, the lamb which everything pointed to him, when he died, the veil was torn by an unseen hand from top to bottom, exposing to the people, so the people now see that the high priests were really corrupt. The people now see an empty room. What was there? The presence of God wasn't there. How long do we think we can do evil and the Lord sit back and do nothing? Yet the priests still possessed great power, and they employed it for selfish and mercenary ends. The people were subjected to their merciless demands and were also heavily taxed by the Romans. This state of affairs caused widespread discontent, popular outbreaks were frequent, greed and violence, distrust, spiritual apathy were eating up the way of the heart of the nation. God was not with the people. Christ came to restore that. God was with his Son. Hatred of the Roman and national and spiritual pride led the Jews still to adhere rigorously to their forms of worship. What they have? They had a form of worship. Ellen White, God's servant, told us, I think it's 1T. I'll quote that quotation in a comment. In 1T, that we have done worse. We as Seventh-day Adventists have done worse. What we have is a form of worship. Things have gotten worse since the prophet died. The people in their darkness and oppression, and the rulers thirsting for power, long for the coming of one who would vanquish their enemies and restore the kingdom of Israel. They had studied the prophecies but without spiritual insight. And we are told too in Revelation chapter 3 that we are what? Blind, naked, miserable, poor. We are without spiritual eyesight too. Thus they overlooked those scriptures that pointed to the humiliation of Christ, first advent, and misapplied those that speak of the glory of his second coming. Pride obscured the vision. They interpret the prophecies according with their selfish desire. Who were the interpreters of the prophecies back then? It was the leading men. They misapplied it. And today, our leading men are misapplying the prophecies. But how long would God do nothing? He exposes us for our wickedness. Any one of us who commit wicked things, the Lord will expose us. And it's not going to be nice. Excuse me 1 minute. I'm coming. I'm very sorry about that. Yes, I'm always interrupted, but it's okay. So yes, we are coming to an end. We are getting close. So among the righteous still in Jerusalem, to whom had been made plain the divine purpose, were some who determined to place beyond the reach of ruthless hands the sacred ark containing the tables of stone, on which had been traced by the precepts of the Decalogue. This they did. With mourning and sadness, they secreted the ark in a cave where it was to be hidden from the people of Israel and Judah because of their sins, and was to be no more restored to them. The ark, that ark is yet hidden. It has never been disturbed since it was secreted. Never been disturbed. So the ark of the covenant is here on earth. Not disturbed, not destroyed. We're having it from inspiration. This was written in 1917. We continue from the desire of ages. This body was made up of the members chosen from the priesthood and from the chief rulers and teachers of the nation. The high priest was usually the president, just like we will have a president, and just like how we will have the general conference presidents. All its members were to be men advanced in years, though not aged, men of learning, not only versed in Jewish religion and history, but in knowledge. They were to be without physical blemish and must be married men. God had a criteria. If you were supposed to come into the ministry, you had to be married men. You had to be physical, a man without blemish and so forth. This is how the Lord had done things back then. And I believe this is what the Lord wants now. Today, men who would stand up and do what He asks to do. Not men of corrupt, but men who would strive their best to become perfect, perfect in the ways of God. So in the days of the Jewish independence, the Sanhedrins were the supreme court of the nation, possessing secular as well as ecclesiastical authority. Though now subordinate by the Roman governors, it still exercised a strong influence in civil as well as religious matters. We are coming to a close. The precious record of the law was placed in the ark of the testament and is still there. So the law, the two tables of stone that were given to Moses, my fellow Seventh-day Adventist brethren, it is still in good condition, protected, safely hidden from the human family. But in God's appointed time, He will bring forth these tables of stone to be a testimony to all the world against the disregard of His commandments and against the idolatrous worship of the counterfeit Sabbath. And we know what is coming up with the mark of the beast And if you don't worship on this day, what is going to happen? The Lord is promised that He is going to bring forward these tables of testimony that are secretly, sacredly hidden. He knows where it is, and He knows how He's going to bring it forth. He does. So the Ark of the Covenant in heaven, because we know the Lord gave Moses a pattern of the truth. So the Lord gave me a view of the heavenly sanctuary. The temple of God was open in heaven, and I was shown the ark of God covered with the mercy seat. Two angels stood at either end of the ark, with their wings spread over the mercy seat, and their face turning towards it. This my accompanying angel informed me represented all the heavenly hosts, looking with reverential awe towards the law of God, which has been written by the finger of God. This law that was written with the finger of God can never be done away with. The ark of the earthly sanctuary was the pattern of the ark, the true ark in heaven. There besides the heavenly ark stand living angels, each with one wing overshadowing the mercy seat, and stretching forth on high, while the other wings are folded over their forms in token of reverence and humility. So the pattern that Moses had was of the truth in heaven with real angels. Brethren, let us take God at His word. Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. The psalmist said. There's so much to be learned from the sanctuary. And I really hope we have learned something today. I'll come back soon with the help of God so that we can continue on to know more about the sanctuary. Please leave your comment. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so we can have more truth, unadulterated truth, to be given to the people of God in this time of peril. Have a wonderful day.